Howdy, Travis from Know How here. You're listening to a very special episode of the Restoration Playbook podcast because this is actually the first chapter of the official Building Leaders audiobook. Building Leaders is a book that we released earlier this year after sitting down for interviews with over a dozen of the most respected leaders in the restoration industry, from Ben Looper to Mark Springer, Marcy Richardson, Steve Glazik, tons of others who have thought about how do I build that next generation of leadership in my organization? How do I not only become a good leader myself, but create good leaders and build an organization and a legacy that endures beyond my time with the company? This book, Building Leaders, is already having an incredible impact in the industry. You can get a free copy at buildingleadersbook.com or buy a hard copy on Amazon. Just search for Building Leaders and Know How. But we wanted to make it even easier for you to gain all the insights and expertise from Building Leaders. So we've launched the official audiobook. That's the entire book. We didn't cut anything, and it's all available on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else that you get it. You can find the official audiobook. In the show notes of this episode, you'll find a link so that you can subscribe to this podcast and listen to the additional chapters of this book. But we wanted to give you a preview of what's to come. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the official audiobook of Building Leaders.
Chapter 1. The Foundation Column. Core Leadership Principles. Establish the essential qualities every leader needs to guide your organization. In any enduring structure, the foundation must be solid, consistent, and capable of bearing the weight of everything that follows. So too in leadership. These foundational elements, understanding the difference between leadership and management, establishing trust, conflict resolution, committing to strategic planning, and more, ensure long-term organizational success. Without these foundational principles, even the most Herculean efforts will falter. But establish a firm grasp of these principles, and you will create a stable foundation for all other aspects of leadership. In this chapter, we will explore the essential qualities every leader needs to guide their organization, offering insights from industry leaders who have woven them into the very fabric of their organizations and into their philosophies and work, success, and life. Many listeners may find that this chapter will help to put words to practices or principles they believe in, but have had difficulty defining or describing. Mark Springer, the former owner and CEO of Dayspring Restoration, and Ben Looper, CEO of Southeast Restoration Group, bring decades of experience and a deep understanding of what it takes to lead effectively in the restoration industry. Their leadership styles, though distinct, converge on this point. These principles stand the test of time because they ensure that you're not just managing tasks. You're leading people, yourself, your emerging talent, your workforce, towards a shared vision they can get behind and feel activated by. Get to know our leader builders. Mark Springer is a seasoned president and CEO, known for expanding companies through strategic growth and acquisitions. He is a recognized leader in the property restoration industry during innovation and industry-wide transformation. Mark Springer, Leadership Snapshot. 1. Timeless truths that help Mark as a leader. There's no limit to what you can achieve if you don't mind who gets the credit. Inspired by a quote from Ronald Reagan, Mark believes that effective leadership often involves helping others succeed without seeking personal recognition. This humility and focus on the greater good have been central to his leadership philosophy. Follow through. Do what you said you were going to do. If you don't, your credibility is significantly undermined as a leader. Number 2. Advice or feedback that stayed with him. Criticism as a gift. This advice from Mark's father taught him to see criticism not as an attack, but as a gift. Even if the criticism is difficult to hear or is delivered harshly, there's usually some truth in it that can help us grow and improve. With this mindset shift, you can embrace feedback, work on blind spots, and be a more effective leader. Ben Looper is the founder and president of Southeast Restoration Group, recognized for its growth and as a top workplace under his leadership. He currently serves as president of the Restoration Industry Association, the RIA, and is dedicated to advancing industry standards while balancing his career with his strong Christian values and family life. Leadership Snapshot. Number 1. Timeless truths that help Ben as a leader. People first. Just like Truett Cathy, founder of Chick-fil-A, Ben believes that focusing on people rather than financial motivation leads to success. When you prioritize people, the financial aspects tend to take care of themselves. Help others to achieve success. Serving others is a path to personal and organization success. Ben follows Zig Ziglar's quote, "You can have anything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want." 2. Advice or feedback that stayed with him. Do what you can when you can. Take action when opportunities arise to avoid future regrets by seizing the moment. Ben subscribes to this mentality wholeheartedly, inspired by Dabo Swinney, football coach at Clemson. "I will do what I can when I can, so I will not wish I would have when I could have." Learn the stakes of mistakes. As we'll soon discover, being someone effective in the work of developing leaders, or a leader builder, does not hinge on perfection. It's unrealistic to believe you'll never make mistakes. In fact, according to Mark Springer, making mistakes and learning from failures is a key part of development. But embedded within the word mistakes is stakes. Stakes are important. If missteps had no consequences and held no tension, would we really learn from them? Would we hold ourselves on high standards? Stakes vary, of course. When it comes to discussing the consequences of neglecting leadership development, the stakes are high. For Mark, they're also clear. If we don't cultivate and develop leaders in this organization, we are going to be limited in how far we can take it. The absence of strong leadership in key positions is more than just a management issue. It's a strategic threat. Without capable leaders to drive different functions, a business simply cannot scale. Having the most talented, hardworking, maverick owner or manager at the helm is wasted if they're doing it alone. If you don't have leaders in the respective business functions that are required for it to be successful, you're going to be hamstrung, Mark says. To overcome this, you need a leadership pipeline, and that pipeline must be nurtured. Valves open, no leaks, no blockages. Companies that ignore this will find themselves stuck, unable to move beyond a certain point. This leadership ceiling creates a barrier to innovation, growth, and long-term success, ultimately prematurely limiting the entire organization's potential. But it goes deeper. Without a clear path for growth, talented up-and-comers and aspiring leaders, those who could be instrumental in pushing the organization forward, will start to look elsewhere. While many managers are sticking around longer than the technicians that report to them, our research found that 60% of them are leaving their roles in under 6 years. What is your average supervisor-manager tenure? A study indicated 3.5% have a less than 1 year tenure. 15.3% have 1 to 2 years. 42.4% have 3 to 6 years. 27.1% have 6 to 10 years. And 11.8% have 10 plus years. If we don't develop these leaders, they're going to leave. They'll go somewhere else where they can grow and be inspired, Mark warns. Failing to develop leaders is not just risky, it's short-sighted. Ben Looper has seen this mistake countless times in his long career. And one thing about mistakes, they're only valuable if you don't repeat them. People are living in the current moment and not thinking about the future, Ben observes. This approach, while often driven by the unpredictable demands of the property restoration industry, overlooks the importance of preparing for what's next. They focus on the work they need to do today, to be successful today. What they're not thinking about is the work they need to do today to be successful tomorrow. React or respond? Ben stresses a need for a proactive approach to leadership development. For him, this means implementing programs and training designed to cultivate the next generation of leaders now, not later. Tomorrow is going to happen, whether you're ready for it or not, Ben cautions. It's this lack of long-term thinking is a critical mistake that leaves companies vulnerable. When you're not prepared, when you don't do the work on the front end, you react, which usually creates additional problems. The difference between reacting and responding, he notes, is preparation, and that preparation starts with developing leaders today. First responders. When you call 911, there's a reason you don't get first reactors at your door. You get first responders. Property restoration is a whirlwind of daily emergencies. Storms come, disasters strike, and the immediate response is critical. This industry, by nature, often attracts those who excel in reacting swiftly to crisis. But here's a challenge. Reacting is not the same as responding. Reacting is what happens when you're unprepared, when you haven't laid the groundwork or thought ahead. It's scrambling to put out fires without a plan in place, often leading to more issues down the road. Responding, on the other hand, is what happens when you've done the work up front, when you've taken the time to plan, anticipate, and build the capacity to handle challenges as they arise. The key lies in preparation. Leaders must cultivate the vision and discipline to look beyond today's tasks and think strategically about the future. This involves asking the right questions now. What will the next steps be? Who will take them? How can we ensure our team is ready to face tomorrow's challenges? By dedicating time to these questions and preparing accordingly, leaders position themselves not just to react, but to respond effectively when crisis hits. Lead instead of manage. Just like in the example of first responders versus first reactors, the difference between leading and managing isn't just semantic. It's about strategic vision over a purely operational focus. What do we mean by operational focus? In the restoration workforce survey we conducted in our book, Winning with Workers, 51% of workers polled said that their managers get back to them within 15 minutes. Of course, a good leader should be engaged and responsive to their team. But if you're able to respond to every request or question within 15 minutes, you might be constantly caught in the weeds. This level of responsiveness can prevent you from stepping back to lead strategically and focus on the bigger picture. Whether your title is owner, founder, CEO, VP, or otherwise, if you are engaging in this type of behavior, you are simply managing. Managing to get by. Managing to put out fires. Managing to get so caught up in the daily grind, working in the business, that you don't have time to work on it. One of the first things I ask organizations is, "Can you provide me with your most recent strategic plan?" Mark says. More often than not, they don't have one, and this is the reason. It's also important to keep in mind that, for Mark and others, developing leaders in his organization is a critical building block of his overall strategic plan. Leadership development is a strategy. It's not separate from strategic planning. It is strategic planning. A quote from Mark Springer. Relentless execution. So, say you do have a strategic vision, and leadership development is a key component. The downside to being hyper-responsive to every tactical team likely means you don't have time to execute on it properly. Relentless execution is what separates companies that succeed and thrive from those that just aspire to. According to Mark, the most successful companies commit to breaking down their strategic plan into actionable steps and hold themselves accountable to moving the needle every quarter. Relentless execution, actionable insights. A common pitfall is treating strategy like a one-time event instead of an ongoing process. Sure, once a year the entire leadership team might gather off-site, even going so far as to bring in a facilitator to help craft a detailed, ambitious strategic plan. After these getaways, like magic, there's a palpable buzz in the room. Everyone is excited, motivated, ready to conquer the world. But by Monday morning, that buzz fades as the demands of daily operations take over, and the plan, so meticulously crafted, becomes just another document collecting dust. Well, there's always next year, right? Consider this failed follow-through as more than a missed opportunity, though. It's a recipe for breeding cynicism within the team. When strategic plans are treated as grand events rather than integrated processes, they fail to catalyze real change and lose momentum, often quickly. Instead, effective leader builders that practice relentless execution build a culture where goals are discussed but never fully realized, leading to frustration and a sense of futility. These negative feelings can settle into the very bones of your organization's culture. Here are some tips on building a culture of relentless execution. Acknowledge when you're wrong. Be ready to pivot. Even the best strategic plans need to be adaptable. If an initiative isn't working, be willing to reassess and redirect your efforts. Both Mark and Ben emphasize that leaders must be humble enough to admit when they're wrong. This humility is critical for maintaining team morale and preventing wasted resources on doomed projects. Avoid the sunk cost fallacy. Don't let past investments dictate future decisions. Leaders often fall into the trap of the sunk cost fallacy, continuing a failing strategy simply because they've already invested significant time, money, or resources into it. When a plan isn't working, involve your team in the decision to pivot or stop. Collaborative course correction not only ensures that the best course of action is taken, but also reinforces the team's investment in the success of the initiative. Don't abandon the plan too soon. While resisting the sunk cost fallacy is important, it can also be tempting to change course prematurely when things get tough. Resist the urge to give up too soon. Regular check-ins, monthly and quarterly, allow the team to recalibrate and stay on course, ensuring that short-term obstacles don't derail long-term goals. Learn from both success and failure. Engage in strategic reflection by regularly revisiting and evaluating your strategic plan, and be honest with yourself and your team. What's working? What's not? Celebrate your successes to build team confidence and reinforce positive behaviors. Equally, use failures as learning opportunities to refine your approach and improve future outcomes. Keep the focus on core strengths. When venturing into new services or markets, ensure that they align with your core business value proposition. Expanding too far from your strengths can dilute your brand and overextend your resources. As Mark learned, sometimes less is more when it comes to maintaining focus and profitability. When expanding Dayspring Restoration into offering additional services like home energy audits and building energy efficiency improvements, Mark initially saw these services as an opportunity to add revenue while already working in customers' homes. Unfortunately, this expansion ended up being a mistake. It took the company off course from its core business value proposition. The initiative didn't align with the company's strengths, and ultimately did not succeed as planned. Relentless commitment to execution. Break things down. Convert your long-term strategic vision into actionable short-term goals, like quarterly rocks in EOS or scaling up frameworks. This relentless focus on execution ensures that your strategic plan isn't just a theoretical document, but a living, breathing part of your organization's daily operations. The Relentless Execution Reading List. Our leader builders have referenced these books and principles as vital resources in their pursuit of relentless execution. Execution, The Discipline of Getting Things Done, by Larry Bossidy and Ram Charan. This book is foundational for understanding how to turn strategic plans into actionable results. It outlines the importance of linking people, strategy, and operations to achieve organizational goals, resonating deeply with the idea that relentless execution is the key to success. The book Traction: Get a Grip on Your Business by Gino Wickman. Traction introduces the Entrepreneurial Operating System, the EOS, a practical method for achieving relentless execution through structured short-term goals. This aligns perfectly with the approach of breaking down strategic plans into manageable, quarterly rocks to ensure consistent progress. Scaling Up: How a Few Companies Made It and Why the Rest Don't, by Vern Harnish. Scaling Up offers a comprehensive framework for growing a business successfully by focusing on people, strategy, execution, and cash. Its emphasis on execution and the use of the one-page strategic plan echoes the principles discussed in Building a Culture of Relentless Execution. Winning with Workers: The 8 Proven Principles Today's Leaders Use to Attract and Retain the Best Talent, by Leighton Healy and the Know-How Team. Winning with Workers dives into the critical importance of building a strong, engaged workforce as the backbone of successful execution. It explores strategies for improving communication, fostering a positive culture, and empowering teams, all essential for leaders committed to turning strategic vision into operational success. Like Mark, Ben Looper also highlights the element of time as a key to executing strategy. It's not just about how leaders can get too caught up in daily operations to focus on long-term strategy, or how cramming planning into a once-a-year marathon session leads to a short-lived buzz that's often fading by Monday morning. For Ben, the essence of strategic vision lies in planning far enough in advance to genuinely shape the future. We're very strategic, and we plan over a year in advance. I'm currently working on calendars next year and the year after, because we have to, he explains. For Ben, staying ahead of the curve is essential. He plans quarter by quarter, not next quarter, but next year's quarter, to ensure that Southeast Restoration is not merely reacting to events, but proactively shaping them. Of course, there's a lot of discipline involved in this process. Ben uses this microscopic example to get his point across. If I waited until this week to schedule a meeting for next week, chances are half the people would be busy or out. Quote, "You need to have the vision and the discipline to schedule and take time to think about what the next step should be and who those steps should be with." That quote's from Ben Looper. The real impact of leadership isn't measured in quick fixes, but in the legacy you build, one decision at a time. While managing keeps you afloat, leading propels you forward, transforming challenges into opportunities and vision into reality. It's time to trade the immediate rush of solving small daily problems into the deliberate cultivation of both people and plans. Mentorship and self-assessment. Becoming an effective leader isn't about reaching a destination. It's about committing to a continuous journey of growth. 2 elements are non-negotiable along the way: mentorship and self-assessment. Mentorship is what separates a good leader from a leader builder. It's one thing to be an effective leader, but quite another to develop a long line of excellent leaders in your wake. Mark and Ben underscore the importance of these practices, revealing that true leadership development isn't a solitary pursuit. It's a path enriched by the guidance of others and a brutally honest evaluation of oneself. It is one of the beautiful compensations of life that no man can sincerely try to help another without helping himself. A quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Mark views mentorship as rocket fuel for leadership growth. He believes that leaders should actively seek mentors and step into the role of mentor for others, no matter where they are on their own leadership journey. You should always look to be mentored and be mentoring at whatever stage you are of life, Mark advises. It's a reciprocal relationship that, according to Mark, is one of the most powerful ways to accelerate both personal and professional development. When one teaches, 2 learn. By mentoring others in leadership, you not only help them grow, but also deepen your own understanding, and reinforce the principles you've learned. Teaching someone else what you've learned forces you to articulate and internalize those lessons more deeply, he says. Self-assessment is the other side of the coin. Mark stresses that it's not just about understanding your strengths, but about uncovering those blind spots, those hidden behaviors that quietly undermine your effectiveness. Tools like the Leadership Practices Inventory, or LPI for short, provide a structured way to confront these blind spots head-on. Mark recalls his own experience with these assessments. The very first time I got one of these, I thought, do I really do that? But everyone said I did. Recognizing a potential blind spot, Mark listened and took action, engaging in self-assessment so as to not limit his growth. While Mark focuses on the individual's role in mentorship and self-assessment, Ben broadens the lens to include the environment in which leadership is cultivated. Ben believes that while some traits like character and integrity might be innate, they can also be honed in the right setting. Leadership is cultivated with intention, he says. Surrounding yourself and your team with strong role models and leveraging tools like DISC, Myers-Briggs, and Working Genius assessments can help identify and develop strengths and weaknesses. Humility is the thread that ties all of this together. Ben emphasizes the importance of recognizing one's own limitations. You have to be willing and humble enough to recognize that if self-assessment reveals a weakness, you need to find the right person to come in and help, he advises. Rather than stepping back, this humility drives leaders to build a diverse team that leverages each member's strengths and compensates for any weaknesses. By fostering a culture that values self-assessment, continuous improvement, and humility, leaders create an environment where growth isn't just possible, it's inevitable. Mark and Ben's insights remind us that leadership isn't about being the best at everything. It's about knowing where you excel, where you need support, and how to bring others along for the ride. Leadership limitations and glorifying success. Let's revisit the idea of failure. Humans make mistakes, and mistakes can feel like failures. But this part is crucial. What do we do with those failures? How do they shape us as leaders? How do we address failures with those we lead? These questions bring us to a deeper exploration of what it really means to lead. It's not all success stories and triumphs. Sometimes it's about humility and recognizing your own leadership limitations. In the world of leadership, we often hear about the grand successes, the CEOs who led their companies to greatness, the military generals whose strategies won wars, and the sports coaches who turned underdogs into champions. These stories are inspiring, but they can also be misleading. Mark challenges this traditional focus on success stories, arguing that leaders are often shaped more by their failures than by their victories. Learning from mistakes is crucial to personal and organizational growth, Mark asserts. He believes that the glorification of success stories can create unrealistic expectations, as most motivational gurus paint a picture that's far removed from the reality that most of us face. Leaders then risk becoming trapped in cycles of envy and comparison, rather than embracing the obstacles and setbacks that can have a truly formative impact on their development. Mark's call is for leaders to seek out more authentic and practical resources, ones that acknowledge the messy, imperfect journey of leadership, rather than glorifying an unattainable ideal. In reality, becoming wildly successful is much less common than experiencing hardships, but the latter offers much more potential for transformative lessons. Together, Mark and Ben's insights and core leadership principles you'll see echoed by other leader builders in this book, create a powerful narrative. True leadership is not about avoiding mistakes, but about embracing them as opportunities for growth. It's about recognizing that no leader is an island, and success comes from building a team that can collectively overcome challenges and capitalize on strengths. It's important to note that this culture of learning from mistakes relies on a foundation of intentional strategic planning and internal rhythms designed to provide clarity and alignment. This way, the mistakes that occur while pushing forward are the kinds of mistakes that teams learn to manage and grow from. Imperfect plans executed by imperfect people, committed to personal and business growth. By letting go of the need to be infallible, leaders can create an environment where both they and their teams can thrive. Strengthening your core. Chapter summary. Strategic vision. How to do it. Dedicate regular time to strategic planning, separate from daily operations. Develop a long-term vision for your organization and break it down into clear, actionable goals. Establish weekly, monthly, and quarterly rhythms to hold tension and make in-flight adjustments. Use tools like quarterly rocks, EOS, or scaling up frameworks to maintain focus on the big picture, ensuring that each quarter contributes to the overall vision. Relentless execution. How to do it. Break your strategic plans into specific, measurable tasks and hold your team accountable to deadlines. Implement regular check-ins, such as weekly or monthly meetings, to review progress and adjust as needed. Ensure that your strategic plan is a living document that guides daily actions and decisions. Leadership development strategy. How to do it. Create a leadership development program within your organization. This could include mentorship opportunities, leadership training, and clear pathways for advancement. Regularly evaluate your team to identify emerging leaders and provide them with the resources and support they need to grow. Humility. How to do it. Practice self-awareness and actively seek feedback from your team and peers. Acknowledge your weaknesses openly and build a team that complements your skills. Delegate tasks in areas where you're less strong and trust your team to handle them effectively. Learning from mistakes. How to do it. Encourage a culture where mistakes are seen as learning opportunities rather than failures. When errors occur, lead by example by analyzing what went wrong, discussing it openly with your team, and identifying lessons learned to avoid similar issues in the future. Mentorship. How to do it. Seek out a mentor for yourself and commit to mentoring others within your organization. Establish regular one-on-one meetings with your mentees to guide them through their leadership journey. Share your experiences and challenges openly and encourage them to do the same. Self-assessment. How to do it. Use assessment tools like the Leadership Practices Inventory, the LPI, the DISC, or Myers-Briggs to gain insight into your leadership style and areas for improvement. Regularly review these assessments and set personal development goals to address any blind spots. Integrity and trust. How to do it. Lead by example in maintaining high ethical standards in all business practices. Make decisions that align with your core values, even when it's difficult or costly. Foster an environment of transparency and honesty within your team to build trust. People-first focus. How to do it. Prioritize the well-being and development of your team over short-term profits. Invest in employee training. Offer opportunities for growth, and create a supportive work environment. Listen to your team's needs and concerns, and take actions to address them, ensuring that they feel valued and motivated.
All right, that was the introduction. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you want to listen to the entire audiobook, you can do so at no cost. It's completely free. Just follow the link in the show notes or search Building Leaders Book Know-How, and you'll find the official audiobook of Building Leaders, where you can listen to the book in its entirety, gaining wisdom from some of the restoration industry's biggest and most experienced experts on how you can create the next generation of leadership in your organization. For more information on know-how, head to tryknowhow.com. Thanks so much.